Now this is the bottom of my quilt, and this is the back of my quilt. So I want to find the center roughly, it's about here. And then I want to take my binding and I want to lay it a little bit past the center, about 3 or 4 inches. And I actually want to start down here. So I'm going to use my little clip to help me figure out where I'm going to start. So I'm going to start from there. Now when you get this in your machine, every quilt we do has different thicknesses. And this one happens to be very, very thin, okay? So I'm using 2.5 inch binding on here. But what I want to do is make sure that when I fold this binding over, it will fill up, or the fabric or quilt itself is going to fill up that binding as much as possible. So I'm not going to have a little bit of the lap over without binding. And I kind of did this in black and white, hopefully to help show you what I'm doing. When I fold that over, I want this to be up in here as far as possible, close to this fold. That way this isn't flimsy out here. It'll be nice and stiff. It'll be covering right up into the fold. So that's what I'm trying to accomplish here. So what I do is I'm going to put my machine on a large basting stitch. Okay, and then I'm going to kind of test this. I'm going to run a piece and test to make sure it's going to be the width I want. Now, I like to run my edge of my binding right along the edge of my foot. Okay, so what I do is I adjust the needle. Most machines have the ability to move your needle left or right. See how my needle's moving? See, it's moving back and forth. Well, you gotta get down under here. You know? Let's get this. I'll have to retake this one. But just practice seeing where you can see it. See? Okay. So you'll need to hold it down there for that part. Okay, so I like to keep the edge of my foot right along the edge of the fabric and the binding. So what I'm going to do is a test sew. And I used a large basting stitch so I could take it out easily. And then I'm going to move my needle over by using my needle. You see how my needle's moving back and forth? So I'm going to move it to where I think I'm going to get a seam that is big enough to entirely be encased into the binding. So let's just try where it is right now. I'm trying to make it wrong so I can show you what's not good. I'm keeping the edge of my quilt up against my foot. Okay, so that's enough to show. Okay, so I take this out. You can see it's pretty wide. I fold that over, and you see how it's too wide? I can't fold this over far enough. I want this fold to line up with the green line here. That's a stitching I just did. So you can see my seam is way too wide. It won't accomplish that because the goal is to get this fold to line up one hair or one thread past the green. So let me take that out real quick. This is where these chisel tip scissors help too. Okay. Let me get rid of this thread. Okay, now I'm going to try this again. Put my needle or my presser foot down where I want to sew. and I'm going to move my needle over where I think it should be. And I think that right where it normally is, which is 0, is probably fine. Okay, I want to make sure I'm right there. So a little bit. Okay, let's see what that looks like. Okay, now when I fold it over, it's going to fold over to this side. It's going to fold over to here, and it's going to be perfectly aligned with the green and just a hair like one thread past it. Okay, see how you can't see the green thread anymore? Okay, so I know that's the width I want. So I've got to remember to change this back to my regular stitch length, which in my case I like 3. Okay. Okay, so we go ahead and you can sew right over that, or if you'd like, you can take it out. Now we're going to sew right down to the corner. Now, here is where we want to come down the distance of the width of my seam allowance here. So I can see with my pointer here that the end of the fabric is right there. So I roughly estimate that I need to bring my tip down to about here. So I'm going to leave my pointer there and kind of come on down to where I think it is. And then I'm going to go past it a little bit and then back up. Come on. And back up a lot in this case. My machine wasn't listening to me. Okay, so I'm going to cut my threads. Now what I like about backing up and sewing supposedly right over top of the thread that you just sewed is that I can clip it one thread at a time to get it where it needs to be. So you need to move over a little bit. The purpose of this is you want to take it off your machine, lay your quilt flat, having a nice other flat surface, parallel surface helps, but you want this to end up laying flat and creating a straight line with all that, with this end of your quilt. So see how I've clipped, and if I keep pulling one more, I can get myself a perfect straight line from here to here. Okay, that's really important, because what that does, it makes a perfect 90 or a 45-degree angle here and a perfect 90-degree angle there. So with this on the hard surface like this, and I got this held in position, it's not like this, it's not like that, it's nice and flat going across. Take my 2 fingers, hold it down like this, okay, right near the edge, fold it back. Hold it with your other fingers. You want to create a nice straight line here with the fold. And you don't want that to be up like this. See this? You don't want it to be over like that. You want it to be exactly even with this. And because you held this down with your fingers earlier, it's still in position where it needs to be. So you hold it down and you stretch this out and make sure it's level, even, parallel, whatever you want to call it, with this bottom line. Then this is where your clip comes in. You put your clip right there, okay? It's through all the layers at the top. You don't put it down here, you put it at the top. Okay, now I go and start sewing. My needle's still in the same position, still the same length of stitch. I'm going to start in a little bit because a lot of machines give you problems starting behind a thick thing like this. So I'm going to sew a little bit, and then I'm going to backstitch. Just to lock it down. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing at the next corner. So sew all the way down to your next corner.